You got Zach. This is Zach here. Hey, this is Zach. Hey, this is Zach. Hey, this is Zachary. Hey, this is Zach.
What's that?
Hey, this is Zach. Hey, this is Zach. Hey, this is Zach. Hey, this is
They're
Zach.
following us.
Hey, this
Quick.
is Zach.
Quick, get to the car.
Hey, this is Zach here.
No.
You got Zach here.
Is that... That's casting out demons.
You got Zach.
Hey guys.
That's a good point, Bailey. Bernie Sanders is a person who cares about all of us, and he might be Jesus.
I mean, I just think I'm trying to get the whole idea going, where you're like, hey, do you need some ointment for that burn? Like BE.
Oh, okay. You're trying. Okay, because when you said ointment earlier, I thought you were referring to you thinking that Bernie Sanders was the second coming of our Lord.
No, you're thinking of not ointment. You're thinking of like anointment.
And ointment, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And ointment.
Oh, God.
Whenever you oint a new Jesus. Hey, demon heads.
Hey guys, I'm Bailey.
How's it going? I'm Zach. Today we are talking about a movie that is referred to by two separate names, one being Brain Dead and the American name being Dead Alive.
Yeah, this is Peter Jackson's debut film.
It's actually not his debut.
His
third film, actually.
Oh, yeah, it is his third because
Yes.
it's Alien and then it's not Alien, but the one with the aliens.
Yeah.
Oh, God, what is it?
No, we'll pull it up real quick. And
It's like
just,
Bad Taste or something like that.
it is Bad Taste.
Yeah.
And then it goes to Meet the Feebles.
Yeah.
But just
But
let
it's
everybody...
a film cult classic.
Yes, it's basically unknown, but some say it's fantastic. Thank you, Jeffrey Lewis. Is that his name? And just let everybody know this is Casting Out Demons, a comedy horror podcast.
Made from our blood, sweat, and fears.
And I fear that my blood and sweat will be enough for this episode. And I think we should start off with our trick or tweets. What do you think, Bailey?
Yeah, of course.
Would you like to go first?
Yeah, of course.
Step up to the plate.
Boo, boo, boo. So, to preface this trigger tweet, Lowe's is starting this new campaign, and it's called Never Stop Improving.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so okay.
I am Bailey talking through Zach.
So
How did
I
you do
said, Lowe's, never stop impaling, because
Ooh.
there is so much hardware used in this film.
Leave it up to Bailey to make a topical reference about a hardware store.
That's what my
That
degree's
kind
in.
of. I always thought Lowe's was like a spinoff of Walmart. I always thought Walmart they got canceled and they were like, we want to keep it going.
It's like the younger little brother
Yeah, okay.
of Walmart.
Looks up to Walmart. My trick or tweet is a coming of age tale featuring a lawnmower scene for the whole family.
All right.
All right. Let's go ahead and get into this movie. The movie is prefaced around a Sumatran rat monkey who is kidnapped from an island and very, very similar to King Kong in a lot of ways. Peter Jackson
Just a
did go
little
on.
foreshadowing,
He
yeah.
did go on to direct the most modern version of King Kong. And actually did a little research on the Sumatran rat monkey. It is a fictional character. Peter Jackson wants it to be very clear that the rat monkey shown in the movie was, in fact, early CGI, and that he is not using a surrogate donkey to breed a hybrid animal. And he also wants to go on record and say that New Zealand is not trying to steal Australia from the world, and that the rat monkey would have nothing to do with that anyway. That was a text I got from Pete this morning. PJ, big listener of the program. I just wanted to let you know I got you, and you can text me anytime. It doesn't just have to be on your birthday to remind me to tell you happy birthday, Peter. So.
Man. So anyways, the Sumatran rat monkey.
The symmetric rat monkey.
The symmetric.
He is
Mouse chimpanzee. Mouse chimpanzee.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so they wind up. It starts out with this like scientist who's on this island. And
Is he a
then-
scientist?
I don't know if he's a scientist, zoologist.
Yeah, let's call him a thief.
Rat enthusiast.
Let's call him a thief. Okay.
Well, he winds up. He winds up on this island. He winds up trying to get the Sumatran rat monkey.
Yes. For reasons untold, we never understand what his motivation was. Anyway, he runs into some aboriginals. Is that what you refer to them as?
Yeah.
And, the natives to the land. This is.
I was about to say that exact phrase.
Natives to the land.
Yeah, like opened my mouth to say it and you said it.
Yeah, that's why we do a podcast together. It's the simpatico nature of the banter that goes back and forth that keeps the fannies in the seats.
Stand back, Gilmore Girls. Our repartee.
It is pretty high up there with Rory Gilmore and any other Gilmore people that I don't know.
Rory Gilmore, Lorelai Gilmore.
Lorelai.
So anyway.
So he grabs the monkey. They start, him and his buddy, his trusted companion, start running, and then they trip. And then something. Then he the
rat monkey bites him.
No, not yet.
Oh yeah,
because
right.
they're like carrying it, and for some reason they stop. And the guy was trying to tell him not to go forward with it. Then he pushes him down, and it looks like he's about to kill him. And he chops off the wooden part of the carrying thing, and then they run quicker with it, kind of leaving his buddy behind. And it looks like his buddy's not going to make it. And he gets into the car and tells him to drive, and his buddy's being chased by the Aborigines. In one part, he does, in fact, trip and is bitten and scratched in several places by the Sumatran rat monkey.
Yes.
And what precedes after that, or what is that? Precedes? Is that the right? Precedes after. Precedes comes before.
Proceeds, yeah.
So if I were to say that precedes after, that would mean the present. So we're talking about the present moment. At this point, he is in the vehicle telling them to drive. Looks like his buddy's not going to make it. His buddy does make it. The Aborigines are left chasing, throwing spears futilely into rocks around. And, you have to, there's part of you that wonders if these were real Aborigines and they didn't know that there was a movie being filmed. And because they were so good at the acting, and they were running barefoot over these rocks, and yet it didn't seem to bother them at all. And either that or they're very good actors. And I don't know. I feel like the movie kind of glosses over their impact on the movie, which is very grand in my opinion. And so that scene, whenever you see them, you kind of just get brought into their world for a little bit. And you're kind of, as the viewer, forced to see what is unfolding in front of you from the Aborigines' perspective.
It's like
and
the scene in Milan when she looks at the reflection and Christina Aguilera sings the song Reflection.
Yeah, I've never seen Mulan.
You've never seen Mulan?
Or Moulin Rouge, or any of those. Anything.
Moulin Rouge.
I've never really seen any movies that begin with an M.
So anyway, they wind up.
Yeah,
he gets bitten.
Yeah, he gets bitten, and it's at this point where the audience is kind of ripped away from the viewpoint of the Aborigines and is brought back to the car, which, I mean, I think it's meant to symbolize how the land is being ripped away from the Aborigines and how their viewpoint is not being shown. And for the rest of the movie after this point is shown through the lens of a Caucasian white male
named
Lionel. And I don't know. It kind of leaves the audience longing for maybe a little at the time of the Aborigines, whenever the natives of the land ruled the land, and their rules, which are set from the beginning, do dictate the rest of this movie. And as a viewer, I was kind of left just yearning for simpler times.
So anyway, I've got to stop. I stayed for as long as I could.
Anyway, so they're in the car. The guy, his buddy, his trusted companion.
I tried to stay as long as I could, and I just couldn't.
So did the Aborigines, and they couldn't take it anymore either.
So he winds up. He's bitten, so they lop his arm off.
And then they find that he's bitten on his other arm.
Yeah, so they lop his arm off.
So they lop off both of his arms, and then they find out he's on his forehead.
So then they cut his head off, but we don't see the head actually roll. That's when we cut to
Dead Alive.
Yes, Dead Alive.
Or Brain Dead, if you're watching.
Depending on what region you're from, for our international listeners.
And the reason that the title Dead Alive was brought to in the U.S. is because Brain Dead was already a name of a movie at the same time. So they didn't want to confuse American moviegoers because, for the most part, pretty dumb. Especially in the early 90s when this movie was released.
So we find Lionel who is in love with this girl named Chiquita.
Well, Paquita.
Paquita, sorry.
And he's not in love with her. So when the movie starts,
Yeah.
we're actually introduced to Paquita first, and
Yes.
we find that she's in love with another guy who I forget his name. Let's call him Brian.
Brian, and so she winds up her grandmother. I don't think it's
Yeah.
her mother. I think it's her grandmother.
Yeah, it's her grandmother.
Reads tarot cards.
Yeah, and then she tells her that she will find the love of her life, and there'll be death around him. She kind of leaves that part out, but the audience knows it.
Yeah, by the look at the tarot cards.
Yeah, and she says the symbol of the star will be the thing that guides you to him. So of course, 5 seconds later, she goes out and Lionel's and he's knocking shit over, being kind of hacky comedian.
Yeah,
kinda,
Lionel. He's very ditzy, very neurotic.
and slapstickian, if I may say.
So he winds up knocking some pencils over,
Yeah, and then Paquita stops him.
and it looks
And I was told by somebody that Paquita, and if we have any listeners that do in fact speak Spanish, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Paquita just means little. This part.
that's true.
Yeah, so little.
Paquito, yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah, it's the
that was that's where the hip hop culture got Lil from, like Lil Romeo.
so anyway,
LL Cool J actually pays tribute to Paquita.
I cannot do this. I cannot go down this road.
So LL Cool J does do that.
So-
He's paid a lot of tribute to this movie. But anyway, so the pencils make a star shape. It's not really a star, but it's like
kind of a star. It's like a pentagram star.
yeah. It's the amulet or medallion that is used to kind of tell the future. It's the shape of that. And Paquita sees this and immediately kind of falls head over heels.
Yeah.
And Lionel, she starts to approach Lionel, and Lionel runs out of the store and almost gets hit by a bus,
Yep.
and then grabs onto the bus. And a very cool scene. At this point, the audience has long forgotten about the Aborigines, so it's kind of refreshing to see this point where the movie takes a kind of a comedic turn, because it was pretty heavy at the beginning. With the person that we thought was going to be the main character getting his arms chopped off and his head chopped off, and to see the Aborigines left behind and probably never to be seen from again in context of the movie. And it's kind of refreshing for the viewer to see.
So Lionel winds up
becoming kind of a comedic yet an action hero.
Yeah, so
Sets the tone.
Lionel, yes, he's this is definitely a Bildungsroman to throw out that word.
What was it?
What is it? It's a
No, what did you say?
Bildungsroman. Isn't it a coming of age tale? That's the right.
Yeah,
that's
that
a
sounds
word.
right.
That's a word. It's close enough.
Yeah.
So we find out that Lionel lives with his mother, who is very overprotective. It's very Norman Batesy,
Yeah.
very reminiscent of Psycho.
Yeah, and I think that Peter Jackson's referencing a lot of horror movies in this movie.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's supposed to be a satire. I think we can assume that about it.
There are a lot of underlying edible.
Well, yeah.
Edible.
I actually read
Thanks,
an interview with Peter Jackson explaining he doesn't understand why everyone points to Freudian explanations for the movie, and he doesn't know who Freudian is, but he wants him to shut up. He wants him to shut up.
So
Whoever
anyway,
Freudian is.
So anyway, we find out that Lionel and his mother have a deep attachment. He lives with his mother. She's very demanding. Mm-hmm. And
Overbearing.
overbearing is a very strong word. And she is talking about this dumb, she's part of this garden club or whatever.
Yeah, and
there's
they're coming
this
to visit.
Thing going on.
This is important because it sets the table. No pun intended.
It's a preface
Sets the
for one of
the
the
grossest scene.
3 scenes in my life that have made me queasy, borderline puke.
Now, Bailey, tell us those other 2 scenes, because
Okay.
you've said them before, but why not go ahead and refresh the Casting Out Demons?
So, okay, there's actually 4. I lied. 4 in my, but I think in 23 years that's it.
Yeah.
The entirety of Human Centipede 2
Still haven't seen it.
barely made it through it, and it was
Okay.
in black and white. It made it even worse.
Yeah.
The scene in Saw 3 where pigs are being completely ground up, like
Yeah.
rotten pig corpses,
Yeah.
and splattered onto this guy who's tied to a pit.
I want bacon now.
And then, last but not least, the scene in Slither when Elizabeth Banks walks downstairs and their entire basement is full of carcasses and like half-eaten.
Yeah. Very gross
Yeah.
scene.
Like half-eaten things. Those are the only 4 things in my entire life in a movie that have made me queasy.
So if you guys have seen those movies, Bailey is kind of setting you up for a standard, and I think that I've seen 2 of those scenes. I haven't seen Human Centipede 2, but I understand the other 2 you're referencing, and I have to say that you did not exaggerate how gross this scene was.
No, this-
we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get, so just be prepared. This
Just
movie
table
is
it.
very, this movie, okay, so fun fact about this movie. At first, they gave it 15, like age 15 in New Zealand, because the critics thought it was funny and that people would get that it was over the top.
Yeah.
But they wound up actually having to push it to 18 because some people were like, no, they need to be 18 to see that. So originally, it was like PG-13 here.
Yeah.
So, fun fact.
We talked about how Peter Jackson went on to direct King Kong, but did you know that in the movie King Kong, he references Brain Dead, and he references it because in the movie they actually kill King Kong with the same lawnmower that is used later in the movie.
They actually do
Because the
pay homage.
the crate says Sumatran rat monkey.
Anyway, so we cut to Lionel and his mother.
And she's talking about this and this and that, and so the next thing we see is that Lionel is out in the yard doing some lawn manicuring, and then
Which is foreshadowing as well.
how so? Oh, because
Yeah, I was like-
I just blinked on it, man. Anyway, so he's by the fence and this dog jumps over and starts licking him, and then Paquita runs up and says whatever her dog's name is. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that her dog's name is James Franco. So she goes, James Franco, get off of him, and then they have like this little back and forth, and says something along the lines of the dog should be in a zoo, and then she's acting like she can't really understand what he's saying, and then it ends up him saying, do you want to go to the zoo? And what does she say?
She says, okay.
Yeah. So they go to the zoo.
With his mother following in the bushes close behind because
Yes.
she's a biatch.
Ding, ding, ding. I just wanted to give you a warning. We're getting close to my Satan pizza theory.
No.
This one actually makes sense. I know I've been playing a little silly right now, but this Satan pizza theory, when we get to it, it might knock your socks off.
Okay.
So,
So she winds up, the mother's watching them, and they're like having a good, nice day at the park because this is this movie's from 1992.
yeah, but it looks like it's made.
Say in like the 50s.
Yeah.
It's like it plays a lot of homage to like 1950s B zombie horror movies.
Yes, the movie is set in the 50s, but it looks like it was filmed in like the early 80s.
80s. Yeah, exactly.
So Peter Jackson's all over the place, and I think he does this intentionally to kind of play with expectations.
Yeah, but
that
it's
people...
not poorly done though.
Absolutely
it's very well
not.
executed.
Yeah, and,
No pun intended.
and I think that there's a reason that this movie came back to life after Peter Jackson was, he was the director for the Lord of the Rings movies, and people really love Frodo and Elijah Wood and Liv Tyler. They love all those characters coming together and putting together that fantasy based on the J.R. Tolkien books.
Did you know in New Zealand that this grossed more than Batman Returns? This movie grossed a lot.
It had
of money.
a $3 million budget.
Yeah,
And
it was like shot in like 11 weeks, I think, and it was
Gross being the operative word.
but it grossed more cumulatively than Batman Returns, like completely.
Well, yeah, Batman Returns. I mean, it's kind of a shitty movie.
It has
if
a
you-
soft spot for me just because.
Yeah, I grew up watching it, but and it'll always have a soft spot. But now, I mean, you can be realistic and critical about it, and I mean, realize it's shit.
I just don't think Val Kilmer is the worst Batman, but that's a whole different.
Who do you
argument
think the
for
worst
another day.
Batman is?
Michael Keaton.
Michael
I
Keaton.
don't think Michael Keaton was a good Batman.
Really?
Because I love his diversity because I mean he went from Beetlejuice to Birdman, like.
Yeah.
And he likes titles with alliteration. He likes to say with the same letter. So I appreciate that over the course of his work. But
he's going to be in Bad Boys. The next
Bad Boys, Bad to the Bone.
Bad to the Bone. Big Boys.
So anyway, but that's enough about B Cubed. They don't want to.
Yeah.
They don't want us to spoil it. But I think. Excuse me. I just don't think it's a tie between him and George Clooney for me on who was.
I think George Clooney was the worst Batman.
That's because I
think Michael Keaton's my second favorite behind Christian Bale.
I just don't think that Michael Keaton. He just didn't do it for me. I think it's just because it was all around the same time of like Beetlejuice, Mr. Mom, and there was like there were too many other roles.
So you
it just
couldn't
kind
really
of diluted.
disassociate him from it. Yeah, fair enough.
I just feel like Val Kilmer gets a bad rep because I don't think.
I don't think Val Kilmer was the worst, but I think Clooney was. And I don't know enough about Adam West.
And how do you feel about Ben Affleck?
Oh, I'm excited. Ben Affleck is Ben Affleck's more Matt Damon than Matt Damon is, if you know what I mean by that.
Well, I mean, Gone Girl and like Good Will Hunting are kind of like the two films I'm using to supplement.
Well, yeah.
Why he'll be a good Batman.
Well, I think he's very film savvy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he knows what he's doing in every role that he approaches. And have you ever seen The Town?
Yeah,
The Town is an excellent movie, and I haven't heard anything about Fargo. I mean, I've heard a lot about Fargo, but I haven't seen it. Argo. Sorry, not Fargo.
I was like,
I also haven't seen Fargo.
Argo's really good.
I haven't seen Fargo.
Fargo's
either.
a really good movie. Yeah. I'm really excited for the new Coen Brothers movie, though. Hail Caesar.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill,
George Clooney, Scarlett Johansson, Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton.
Big cast.
Okay, so
yeah, we've gotten a little off
completely. That may be the worst derailing we've ever had.
Yeah. So they're at the zoo. He freaks out when they get close to the water. He sees a hand in the water, and I guess the audience is kind of thinking, "Is that the hand that got chopped off in the beginning?" But no, it's a memory. Lionel, they're trying to show you that Lionel didn't just start existing right when the movie started. That in fact he did have a past that got him to the point where the movie is at this point. So to establish the past, he tells the story about how whenever he was younger, he went swimming and his father drowned.
Yes, which is important. This is a very important plot.
Yes,
detail.
because it turns out that this
is not true at all.
It's a lie. It is a lie that his mother told him, even though subconsciously he knew the truth the entire time. And it was something that he didn't want to face, and I think that explains his very timid nature.
And I mean, that's what it kind of comes back to us in little flashes or in waves, if you will.
Ooh, not bad. I'm submerged in what you're saying, Bailey.
We get little bits and pieces, and So his mother's spying, so his mother winds up actually falling against the cage of the...
This is after Lionel and Paquita have an encounter with this Sumatran rat monkey, where they have like an apple core or something they throw at it, or it throws at them. And
it attacks the monkey.
Yeah, and kills a monkey.
Yeah,
and then the guy comes, he's a little booger guy, all this stuff. Wouldn't know what I'm doing here. I want to be in a movie, and this is as good as it gets for me. So this is actually, can I share my Satan pizza theory?
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. So we do not know why the man was going to get the Sumatran rat monkey. This movie is absurd in the nature that it is filmed and the storyline that precedes.
Yep.
And ensues.
The zombie baby at the park.
The zombie baby at the park.
It's so fucking funny. Like, it shouldn't have been funny, but it is.
It's really, really funny. Now, I think I have a slice of a reason why this would happen.
Okay.
Who had the motive for Lionel dying?
The uncle.
The uncle. The uncle is the man responsible for
Who we
this
haven't left out purposely, by the way. We haven't gotten to the uncle.
Yeah, the uncle doesn't come in until after the mother is
expired.
Dead? Yeah. Dead, alive. Kind of in between. So, I think he's the one that brought the Sumatran rat monkey. And the rat monkey was supposed to bite Lionel, not the mother. And when the rat monkey realized its mistake, it went for the next best thing and bit the mother. And I think that it was supposed to bite Lionel and allowed itself to be killed out of shame for not getting its rightful target, and thought that maybe biting the mother would have the same effect. But in the end, he knew it wouldn't. And that's why the Sumatran rat monkey met its demise at the heel of the mother.
I can see the uncle part. I can definitely see
the
that.
whole thing. Yeah. It's the whole theory holds up.
So anyway,
it's a good one.
So the mother gets bitten, and she winds up stomping it to death
with the heel.
With her heel, yeah. And
this comes on the heels of I think, their first kiss.
Yes, and so it's just she's so
Not the mother and
Lionel.
Not the mother and the monkey, but Lionel and Paquita.
So she winds up crying out, and Lionel turns and he's, abandons Paquita to go help his mother. So puts his mother in bed, and she is not looking hot.
No, she wasn't hot to begin with. Let's be honest about this.
But now she's definitely.
There are some hot older women. Betty White. I'll stop there. But I'm just saying, this lady, the actress, wasn't. She wasn't an uggo, but she wasn't looking
Anyway,
hot.
so they wrap up her arm because it ripped a giant chunk out of her arm. They wrapped up her arm. Well, she starts acting very peculiar. And so Lionel, that night, Paquita goes to visit Lionel.
And comes up on the balcony and he's like, we can't do this, blah, blah, blah. My mother won't allow it.
Mind you, he's like 34 years old.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah.
So, Paquita's got to be 18, by the way. She's super young.
Uh-huh.
It's weird. I guess New Zealand does things similarly to America and does it the wrong way. But a little shot at both countries.
So anyway, so he says we can't do this.
Is New Zealand a part of Australia as a continent? Where does New Zealand fit into the continent?
It's like kind of floating over to the side. It's an island.
Yeah, but it's still, everything's a part of a continent, right?
I don't know if it's Australia.
Because, Hawaii is technically an island, but it belongs to the continent. But it's, okay. But what was Hawaii before that? I think we need to have a world meeting and discuss that.
So anyway, they said that we can't do this, and so they wind up parting their ways.
No, and then...
No, they wind up, his mother cries
They
out,
begin to part their ways, and then he goes in and sees his mother isn't paying attention, and then calls Paquita in, and she calls him in, if you know what I mean.
And so,
They bone sex.
And so they wind up, her dog's in there too.
Yeah.
And so Mother wakes up, and Mother winds up eating the dog. She winds up burping up fur and stuff. And what Paquita cries out in Spanish, which is "Your mother ate my dog," is what actually the movie's Spanish title is.
Really?
Yeah, no, I'm not making that up. That's true.
Okay. Just to clarify the sequence of events here, Paquita, they sleep together. Paquita leaves, and then he goes to check on his mother, and she's very ill, so they're trying to take her to the hospital. And then we're skipped because that part doesn't happen yet where she eats the dog, because that happens after the luncheon where the custard scene happens. So we should get to the custard scene because they come to the door, the people that are there for the next morning after Lionel sleeps with Paquita, and they come to the door. They're like, we're here from the gardening thing.
And his mother is not looking great. She's trying to put her makeup on and is putting it all over her face.
She puts her makeup on and it peels part of her skin off. So do they staple it? Is that what?
Yeah, he super glues it.
Super glues it back to her face and cover her up with makeup. Then we cut to the custard scene.
Okay, I'll handle it just so that can help me. Okay, this scene, the other three scenes, I would watch on repeat.
Yeah.
If I could get this image out of my mind. So they're eating custard. And her arm, it shows her having a night terror, and she's flopping around and stuff earlier. Her arm, there's a huge chunk out of her arm. One of the veins is pulsating.
Yeah.
And it winds up spewing pus and blood into this guy's custard.
Which custard kind of looks like pus already.
Anyway, and he eats it.
He eats it, and he's like,
and
well,
it's
that's
one
a
of
fine
the
custard.
grossest things I've ever seen. It doesn't sound that bad, me describing it.
Well, yeah.
But the practical effects are just so gross. It's just so nasty.
Yeah, and what takes place right after that, her ear falls off of her damned head into her custard, and she eats her ear. And then the lady sees that, goes to the bathroom, and no one's acting like this is weird. And
then they say we need to Van Gogh, and so
Van Gogh.
And so they wind up leaving, and Lionel realizes that something's definitely wrong, and then that's when Paquita comes back.
Yeah, and then
the mother eats the dog.
Yeah, so they go up and they're trying to take care of the mother, and the dog goes up, she eats it, and then they call the nurse to come because she's eating the dog and it's really fucking weird. The nurse comes, they check on her, and she falls down the stairs, At the bottom of the stairs, the nurse says, "Your mother's dead," and she's talking to him, and she's like, "She loved you, Lionel. She lived a full life." And then the mother pops up and attacks the nurse and turns her into a zombie. And there's this whole scrum back and forth. And
Yeah, so they wind up putting the nurse in the basement.
Nurse and the mother in the basement.
No, the mother gets buried. Remember, the mother has a funeral.
Not yet at this point.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. The mother, they think the mother dies whenever she's thrown through Paquita's shop.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So they put them in the basement, and then he goes to this veterinarian's place and gets a tranquilizer to keep tranking his mother so she doesn't die. He doesn't know what's wrong with her. And eventually he starts going out about town, trying to act like nothing's wrong. And he's in Paquita's shop, and the mother breaks out of the basement and is hit by a bus and is launched into the shop, and then
They think she's dead.
yeah.
So then they wind up, and this is also really gross. So the Undertaker, actually Peter Jackson has a cameo in this movie.
Yeah.
He's the Undertaker's assistant, and so
Yes.
they pump her full of this really gross, like yellowy.
I mean, it's
freaking
embalming
stuff,
fluid.
but it just looks gross.
And it just starts pouring out of her. It's she's become very porous, like a sponge at this point.
Yeah,
she's
and they're
spewing
like-
out all this.
So they're having to try to do the best that they can.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she's decaying, but still trying to live.
And okay, so we get to the funeral scene, and they're putting her in the casket, and so Lionel has to go to the casket because he's got to inject her with the
Tranquilizer.
or people are gonna see that she's a zombie. And then he kind of misses, and then he tranks her, and then he falls into this the actual funeral processions, and everybody's just like, "What the fuck, man?"
And I believe someone says that like they always knew that they were that way or something. Like
Yeah.
they allude to the fact that like he and his mom are doing it.
Yeah, very Freudian. Whoever Freudian is, I keep hearing that.
So
about it.
so that winds up happening, and then we're introduced to the priest,
Yes.
who's in the graveyard,
Yeah, and they call in the cast they call him the Kung Fu priest,
the kung fu.
and it makes sense. The dude's pretty cool.
So he's in the graveyard,
Yeah,
and so his mother.
Lionel goes to dig up his mother. Some bullies come there like, "Yeah, you're gonna give us all your lunch money."
And he's like, "No, it's chocolate milk day tomorrow."
Yeah,
And then,
And then the guy goes to piss on his mother's grave, and he's like, "I wouldn't do that." And the mother reaches up, grabs his scrotal and his sack, and pulls on it, and they start screaming. Throws him at this other dude, hits him, and they both get bitten and turn into zombies. And of course, the Kung Fu priest
comes out yelling, "I kick ass for the Lord."
Yeah. So he jumps, and he's actually kicking ass, dude. He's doing a great job and kicking shit around.
He impales somebody on a tombstone, doesn't he?
Yeah. And eventually he gets bitten and impaled, and he
Yes.
dies, and then is turned into a zombie.
And so he goes in the
Who
basement
goes-
with the nurse.
Yeah, and then goes into they go into the basement with the nurse, and he has zombie sex with a nurse, and apparently zombies have an expedited process of
Yeah, they have like a very short gestation period, and so they wind up
Having a kid.
having a zombie baby. So
Yeah.
then Lionel goes down there. And at this point, the uncle has come in because
Yeah.
he thinks Lionel's like watching old porn in the basement because
Yeah.
he hears a bunch of moaning and groaning.
Yeah.
And so,
And he mentions how he wants the house, and that's where my
Yes.
Satan Pizza theory is founded on. He wants the mother's house. And so,
he's a real sleazebag.
yeah, real sleazebag.
Think of like a stereotypical sleazy uncle, and that's exactly
Bald.
with the fake pompadour.
And so at this point, Lionel takes the baby zombie to the park, and this is what I imagine what the trailer was for the movie, was just him pushing this carriage and like trying to chase after it. Kind of over the top.
It's like the zombie baby almost looks like a Garbage Pail Kid.
I don't know what
Like-
Garbage Pail Kids are. Let me
You don't
look
remember
this up.
those? Like,
No.
they were like Cabbage Patch Kids, but there was like, I can't even think of an example of a Garbage Pail Kid. Yeah, it's like
You should go to images here.
Adam Bomb.
Oh, yeah. This is what the kid looks like. That's a very apt description, Bailey.
Yeah, Junk Food John, Boney Tony,
Yeah, sleep less. Yeah, so
Uzi
yeah,
Susie. Uzi Susie's always been my favorite.
kind of like Uzi Susie. So yeah, Bailey made a very good point. He does look like a Garbage Pail Kid. and he's up to no good.
He gets like flown across the playground and stuff, and
nobody's batting an eye. I think that's why at the heart of what makes this movie work is that the reactions are so off and absurd that it allows this absurd reality to take place in front of you, and the way that the audience is taught to perceive a movie is kind of how the actors and everybody around them are perceiving the movie too. So we're kind of allowing this absurdity to unfold because it is over the top. It is very silly. It is satirical in its nature. So yeah, we accept this viewpoint of okay, yeah, of course this would happen, and this is contrasting the viewpoint at the beginning of the movie of the Aboriginals.
So anyway, he winds up taking the kid back, and at this point, Lionel looks very disheveled. He's neglecting Paquita. He winds up getting the crap beat out of him by the guy that Paquita liked at the beginning of the movie. Because he's acting so weird and crazed. And so, finally...
the uncle asked Lionel to give him the house, or he would turn him in and tell everybody that he's a necrophilic creep because he thinks that he's fucking all the dead people. And Lionel's just like, what the fuck ever, dude. Like, yeah, go ahead. So the uncle immediately throws a party.
Yes, which is the best thing.
Yeah.
And so they wind up...
Nothing better for a zombie movie than to get everybody into a closed, contained space where they're induced by drugs and rock and roll music and other satanic things.
Yeah, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
And so...
sex, drugs, and Cocoa Puffs.
The 3 main points of the pentagram. So, they wind up having a party, and all of the zombies wind up getting loose.
Yeah, and this is because he goes to get, I believe it is, poison that's supposed to kill.
He's going to poison all of them.
Yeah, but he gives them the wrong thing. He gives them animal estrogen. And since the bite originated from the Sumatran rat monkey, this gives the zombies more energy and more power. And this is what eventually happens to the Vera character.
First, so to start off, all of the people, because there had been some other zombies.
Yeah.
Things that have happened. So the body count of the nurse and the priest and everything, they're the first to rise. And if you thought they were fucked up before, they're real fucked up looking now.
Yeah.
And so they wind up start attacking the partygoers.
The pottygoers.
And Paquita also winds up at the party. Just
of course.
That scared the shit out of me. Sorry, some tinsel fell off my door.
Yeah.
And it sounded like...
Sound like a snake.
Yeah, it sounded like a snake.
Or somebody, like a really small person just hissing at us.
Yeah, so that was terrifying. So,
yeah,
or
like a garbage pail kid.
Yeah, so anyway.
So Paquita is going on a date with Brian, and they're walking, and then she sees the party at Lionel's house, and she's like, what the fuck is going on? So she just leaves mid-sentence because he's talking about whatever sport that New Zealanders play. Maybe rugby.
I want to say it's rugby. I think it's rugby.
Yeah, because he mentions kicking the ball at some point, and I don't know. Who gives a shit?
I'm not meaning to just be stereotypical. I really do think it's rugby.
No, I don't give a shit. Rugby's not a real sport, and I'll say that to your fucking face.
It's either rugby or polo.
I admit that real men play that game.
So anyway.
It's not a real sport, though.
So she busts in there, and the uncle, is real creepy and sleazy with her. So then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
Zombies start popping up out of the ground.
Yes.
But not Vera.
Not Vera.
Not yet.
And we should say that the uncle puts Lionel in the room where all this is taking place, and Lionel starts freaking out because he sees the zombies pop out of the ground. Kind of like the opposite of Idle Hands, where they just kind of out of the ground. They pop out like...
Yeah. Like they shoot up out of the ground.
Like a Jack-in-the-Box.
Yeah.
Like a wind-up... You know those old toys? It was like a box, and like the lid would lift up sometimes, and you twist it.
Yeah, so anyway, so they wind up popping up out of the ground.
Yeah.
And
like a Jack-in-the-Box. It's like this thing that is...
they pop up out of the ground, and he's locked Lionel in there with them.
Compressed spring.
So
The stone dude at the party eventually lets him out, and he's like, whoa, dude, radical. So Lionel gets out, finds Paquita, and the zombies get out, and they just start fighting people immediately.
And I mean, they're like ripping people apart. They're like sticking people's faces in lamps, so that the lamp light is like shining out of them, and it gets down to where it's Paquita and this one other girl,
Yeah.
and they just rip this other girl apart that's in a room with her.
Yeah, well, there's like this whole struggle. Paquita actually ends up with two girls. They go and one of them is bitten already and then is pushed into, and like you said, the lamp thing goes through her face, and that's how they kill that one girl. And one girl, I think she is bitten, and Paquita is trying to keep her alive. The uncle is outside, and he's running over things, surviving, and doing a great job, actually.
Yeah, and his wig has been ripped off at this point.
Yeah,
too,
so he's
bald.
running around bald, and he has an encounter with the baby. He escapes though.
Puts the baby in the blender.
Yeah, the baby goes. Is he the one that puts the baby?
No,
in
it's
the blender?
Paquita that puts the baby in the blender.
Yeah, because Paquita uses the blender later and it actually works. She puts the baby in the blender, gets away. The uncle eventually joins them in the room, tries to kill the girl that was bitten. Paquita won't let him.
By the way, "Baby in a Blender" is my favorite Christina Aguilera song.
Oh yeah, it's great.
So
Nobody puts baby in a blender.
there was no better sophomore follow up to "Genie in a Bottle" than "Baby in a Blender."
Yeah. So at this point, Lionel is following the amulet, which just comes up again out of nowhere, and ding, ding, ding. That's what I would change about the movie. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead of that a little bit. Won't bounce back into the plot line. I think the amulet was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the hold it tight.
Yeah, I understand
So
they're
the
trying to
Paquita
satirize a lot of
now, but,
movies, but I feel like it took away from the plot of this movie. And
Yeah.
I think that Peter Jackson even thought that, because at the end of the movie, Lionel just throws it away.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he should have done.
So the amulet kind of acts like, if you've ever seen, this is just I'm going to go on a little thing. If you've ever seen the Goosebumps episode when they move into the neighborhood and they have this really ugly thing that they put on their mantle, and that winds up being the only totem that kept the zombies out.
Yeah.
And they wind up the family next door. Remember the family next door told them to get rid of it, and that's what was making all the zombies come, but they wound up being zombie too. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same ideology if you know what I'm talking about.
It's very R.L. Stillian,
Yes.
if I may.
So it's very R.L. Stein. So they wind up fighting zombies. So then
At this point, Lionel's in the attic and discovers pictures of his father with another woman.
and we find out later. I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut
Yeah.
to this. His mother, Lionel watched his mother drown his father and his father's mistress
In the bathtub.
in the bathtub. Because see, Lionel thought that his father drowned and had flashes of his mother, and he thought his
he
mother
kind
was
of blamed
pulling
himself
him
for
out.
it. Yeah.
It turns out he watched his mother drown his father and his father's mistress
In the bathtub.
in the bathtub, and she buried them.
And we should say that there's a scene that takes place where somebody gets kind of eviscerated and their anus is ripped out, and it's also zombified. And there's this really weird moment where his anus has this moment of self-realization in the mirror, and it looks at itself and it's just like, I'm serious. That's an actual.
No, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
This isn't a lead into a butt joke. This is legitimate.
Yeah.
But
The anus does fart
and then
at
it
one
starts
point.
singing the Christina Aguilera song.
Yeah. I am beautiful.
Yes, that one.
No matter what you say.
And so it it kind of looks like a Deadly Spawn monster.
Yeah, this movie is very reminiscent of Deadly Spawn. Deadly Spawn came first, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I like this kind of movie where it looks like you and your buddies could just pick up the camera and do it yourselves. Besides, there is one scene. I think this is where the majority of the $3 million went to. The infamous lawnmower scene.
Yes, he starts blowing through people with lawnmowers.
Yeah, he gets knocked out of the attic by the anus that creeped into his father's, because he finds his father's body in the attic. This is really weird.
And I mean, while this scene might sound asinine, it is actually very vital to the
It's
movie.
very vital. So he falls from the attic and holding on by the string of the anus, right?
Yes, the old adage.
Yeah.
When you're
he's-
holding on by the string of the anus.
And him and Paquita have a moment while he's holding on to that shit string that's keeping him alive. And they have this moment, oh my God, I missed you, etc. Anyway.
That rectal rope.
Oh yeah, that rectal rope that brings that shitty romance to life. So they try to help each other. Paquita's about to be killed by a zombie. He swings from the anus string over and saves Paquita, but he falls, and it looks like he's going to be overrun by zombies. But he's able to make it outside, and so Paquita goes to this room with the uncle, and this is where the baby's put into the blender, and then she also puts a head into the blender and blends it up, and then fucking Lionel comes in
with a lawnmower.
and he says something really cheesy like, "Party's over, bitches."
It's something, yeah. It's this scene. What I love about this scene, they had to rig it up where blood squirts out of this lawnmower. It's like 5 liters a minute or something. It's like insane because for this movie, this is the bloodiest movie to date.
Yeah.
Eli Roth, where if you've seen any of Eli Roth movies, he said this is the only movie in existence, and this is a direct quote, that has ever quenched his bloodlust. This is the only movie in existence that has ever like made Eli Roth, given him that sweet, sweet boner. So
My bloodlust is far fewer than that.
Yeah.
I actually don't like blood in movies.
yeah,
I don't even like when the characters are related by blood, so.
God. So he winds up doing that, and I mean he's just like mowing people over.
Mowing them down.
Just like ripping people apart.
This scene is really long.
Yes.
Like,
but
you keep waiting for it to cut away, and it don't cut away.
It's it's like 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just him going back and forth, and the blood's filling up in the room. Eventually kills everybody. Him and Paquita are the only ones left standing. And then there's one dude at the top of the stairs, the guy that was cut in half, and the guy's anus is running around. He kills him. They're like, oh. And then she's like, let's get out of here. He's like, I haven't seen Mother yet.
And so then the ground starts rumbling, and out comes a stark, naked Vera. And Vera
She is
like
100 foot tall.
70 years old. So
Yeah.
it's not
pretty.
the female form is beautiful,
Absolutely.
but they over exaggerate the things that happen with age.
Yes.
And I mean, it's like vaginal. Like it's like full
Saggy
frontal.
vag.
Saggy vag.
Name of my band in college.
Yeah,
Zach and the Saggy Vag.
Zach's prog rock band. So
we did a lot of good.
she starts out and she's like, Lionel, you'll never leave me. Winds up devouring him.
Why is she able to talk at this point?
I don't know. It may have something to do. I always thought with the estrogen because it like gave everybody
unlocked
else
more powers?
Yeah. So
Okay.
because I mean she was already like the super.
It did bring a
mother
guy's
zombie.
anus to life.
My favorite Disney movie,
Yeah.
the little
Wall-E.
anus.
It's basically what Wally was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was looking for an intestine to love. So anyway, but back to the movie.
Good segue.
Thanks.
They eventually go to the roof to try to escape this 100-foot monster. Well, I guess you could say that is Paquita's monster-in-law. Because they end up together, and you imagine they get married.
So
they're up on the roof. They're trying to escape. Paquita is knocked, and then she's hanging by a thread barely. And Lionel goes to save him, and then he finally stands up to his mother and says, "I know you killed my father and all this stuff." And then blah blah blah. And she's like, "That's no way to speak to your mother." Knocks the roof down. He slides, and she opens up her belly, and he goes back into the womb.
yeah,
Which is some Freudian fucked up shit, man.
So that happens, and so Paquita's weeping, and
Yeah.
he winds up cutting his way out.
Yeah.
Which I mean, ooh,
Yeah, very weird. That's why it's
the
coming of
worst
age tale. It's his
C-section, yeah.
rebirth. It's his reintroduction into his life where he
Yeah.
has no more attachments to his mother.
it's like one of those C-sections from
And
like
it's-
trauma in the ER, like something really.
I was a C-section baby, and I found myself relating to this not at all. I feel like they got it all wrong.
God, so he
Because
winds up,
I was a baby when I was performed when the C-section was performed on my mother to get me out, and Lionel's 34 years old, so they got it all wrong. But I understand the symbology they're going for, just medically speaking.
Symbology?
Yeah,
Symbology.
yeah, it's the study of Simba. Now, Simba is a character.
Okay, so anyway, nope, not falling down this rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Not going to do it. We're almost in this movie.
Yes.
So he winds up finally killing Mother, and he and Paquita get together.
And everybody shows up, the cops and everything. They're walking away. He goes throw away the amulet. She grabs his arm. She's like, no. And he's like, laughs it off and then throws the amulet away. And then the cast comes up and the movie's over.
Yeah.
We made it through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so we made it through it alive. And so, yeah, so that's dead alive. So
Or
what would
brain
you-
dead.
We're brain dead.
Yeah.
So what would you change?
I think the entire medallion part of the story, it seemed awfully strained in terms of relating to the story. And I understand that Peter Jackson is much smarter than I will ever be. And
Yeah, I feel like even though go ahead.
he was trying to satirize a lot of subgenres of the horror movie.
And so it's maybe playing around with like the Indiana Jones. I mean, it's not horror, but like an Indiana Jones. I'll call it an Indiana Jones like relic.
Well, I mean, Relic is very commonplace in a lot of movies. So you don't have to just narrow it down to Indiana Jones. But yeah, that's a good example.
That's just like what I like to call it. Like that's the nomenclature that I gave. It's like
Yeah.
the Indiana Jones relic.
Yeah, you could even go into the Golden Compass series. The Golden Compass, the Subtle Knife, and the Amber Spyglass, and all of those things. And what the Golden Compass was something that allowed the main character to see.
Did you know though
Yes.
that this movie there were no edits made? This is the original movie. No cuts were made in the script. No anything. This is like as is, completely made as
Well,
is.
I know that the American version is that, but I know that there are a lot of other versions that are cut down to like 81 minutes.
This is like the
The American version
Yeah.
is the Peter Jackson, the one that
Yeah.
he wanted. But I know that a lot of copies that are out there, and you're lucky
Yeah.
that you have the correct copy because you do, and I double checked it. It's 93 minutes of just gory fun.
That's what I actually had to pay a little bit more on Amazon. I mean, it was still only $15 with everything,
Yeah.
but like on Amazon now, it's like $80.
Yeah,
for
I
the
saw.
copy that
I was going to
have.
try to buy a copy whenever we were buying all those DVDs when we were first starting the podcast. And
It's like $80 because it's like Zach said, the American version is frame for frame, shot for shot, exactly
Yeah.
what Peter Jackson wanted.
yeah,
But in some other countries and things like that, they had to whittle it down because
Yeah.
for length and then also for content because
Yeah.
it's so over the top.
it's very over the top.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the amulet.
Yeah, what would you change?
I'll do the amulet, and then I don't know because I really like it, even though it's very over the top.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
not a
it's-
lot wrong with it.
Yeah, I that was like the biggest. Like honestly, it's such a small throwaway thing, and I know that's why Peter Jackson. I think that's why he throws it away at the end. And you know, if that's the only real big problem I have with it, then yeah, it's a really solid movie. And I mean, it's not necessarily my taste. That's why I'll go ahead and get to my rating. I give it a 6.0. I understand and respect the cult status. It's just really not my kind of movie. It's not my cup of tea. And I do try to judge these movies by very strict standards. If it's a horror comedy, I'll give it credit if it's really funny. And if it's a horror movie that's supposed to be scary, I'll give it a lot of credit if it's supposed to be, if it is actually very scary. And I think this one kind of falls a little above the middle on both sides of it.
Yeah.
So 6.0.
Yeah, I gave it a 7.5 just because I like it.
Yeah.
It's not a movie that you can watch very often, but
No.
when you can watch it, it's great.
Yeah. And this kind of goes back into what we talked about
If
prior.
you say one more thing about the Aboriginals.
No, I'm not.
Okay, I was like, if this is a time.
Now that we're done with the plot, we can actually be serious.
Okay. I was like,
So this kind of goes back into a debate that me and you had. I don't know if this will be a previous episode or a episode to come in the future when we talked about Event Horizon.
that's it to come in the future.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Event Horizon in the future. And me and Bailey, this is a pre-recorded episode, we have a discussion about the nature of types of movies where you kind of just sit back and allow yourself, and this is going to be a bad pun, but to be brain dead and kind of just enjoy it for what it is. And I think this is the example I would, if I was going to give you a movie that you're supposed to just sit back and allow it to happen, the absurd nature of it.
I agree.
And, yeah, you're not
I
supposed
agree with you.
to dig for further meaning. Even though it's still there, you can dig into some Freudian stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, it really is supposed to be taken at a very surface level for enjoyment. And this is the movie that I would point to. And still, I don't want to get back into what we got into, and that's already recorded. But I think that this is kind of the movie that you were making the argument for, and Event Horizon is not.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I still stand by my argument. I still
Yeah,
think
fair enough,
Horizon's
yeah.
still clumped into this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so recasting out demons. Do you want to go first? Or you
Yeah,
want
for
me to go
sure.
First?
I had Daniel Radcliffe as Lionel. Daniel can pull off a lot of accents, and I think that he'd be cool. I think he's done some good horror movies. The Lady in Black, or Woman in Black, whatever.
The Woman in Black.
The Woman in Black. Actually, a really terrifying movie. We should cover it at some point.
Yeah, it's not my favorite movie.
Yeah, but it'll give you some scares. Yeah. Then I have Ariana Grande as Paquita, and
I hate her.
Yeah, I'm not really the biggest Ariana Grande fan at all. I've never really listened to her music, but I saw her on an episode of Jimmy Fallon late night show, and she's very charismatic, really funny. And I don't feel like the acting is really necessary. And if I'm just trying to be realistic, if Hollywood were to remake this, they'd probably put like some big name into it, so it would gross a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And I think that Ariana Grande would probably be game for it. She's had acting experience. She was in that Nickelodeon show.
Victorious.
Yeah. So then I have Betty White as Vera.
Yeah.
I have John Slattery from Wet Hot American Summer, First Day at Camp, and also Mad Men to play the Kung Fu priest. I have H. John Benjamin at the guy at the beginning of the movie who steals the monkey. I have Joe Lo Truglio as the guy who kills the guy. And I have Jack Black to play the uncle. I sincerely, I've been waiting to put Jack Black in the proper role because I hold Jack Black to similar esteem to Robin Williams. That's how highly I think of Jack Black.
Oh yeah, and I mean I think Jack Black's amazing.
Yeah. So, and I think having him play the sleazy uncle is kind of below his talent grade, but I feel like he would add the element that the uncle was missing, which is a different layer, a different side to him. It wouldn't make him so two-dimensional. Yeah. And that's another problem I had with the movie, that a lot of characters were two-dimensional. And I understand, like we talked about just moments ago, how it's supposed to be a service-level movie, and you're supposed to just... But I wouldn't mind seeing some character development in there, you know, because Lionel's really the only one that really experiences any kind of character growth. Everybody else kind of regresses into the state they were before they were alive. Yeah. So it's coming of age tale for him, and then a coming to death for most other characters. Mm-hmm. So recasting out Bailey. Go.
Yeah. Lionel Brett McKenzie.
Ooh, yeah.
For Paquita Sofia Vergara.
Ooh.
As the mother, I also said Betty White.
Very cool.
For the uncle, I am torn.
Okay.
I am torn. Oh my god! Shit.
Rip torn.
Rip torn. No, I just had it, and as soon as I went to say it, I lost it. Okay, I was between Gary Busey, just because if you've ever seen Silver Bullet, he's done horror movies, and he can do really, really well in horror movies.
Gary Busey's underrated, man.
And Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, I would go Gary Busey, just because at this point, Donald Sutherland's career, I feel like he wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
The only movies that he does that are kind of beneath him are really funny, like comedies. Yeah. He was in Beer Fest and it was really funny.
Oh God, I love Broken Lizard.
Me too.
So,
you know what? If I was also going to go a little step further, I would get Broken Lizards to direct this movie.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And maybe put them in all the lead roles. And that'd be awesome to make this. Had their first remake to be Brain Dead, Dead Alive.
Well, then I had for my favorite's the Priest, because I said John Oliver.
Ooh, that's really good.
Because he's so good in Community, and I feel like this is like the Community of zombie movies.
Yeah.
And so I feel like he'd be great in it.
Yeah, I think that he would totally be able to pull that off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Another good episode.
Another good episode, guys.
Bone Plugs and Harmony time.
Bone Plugs and Harmony. Zach, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm working on outlining some stuff for the podcast with my brother. It's called Truly. It's a current events podcast with a little twist. Give you a little history lesson. Still in contract negotiations. Well, rather, going through the idea of maybe doing contract negotiations with my uncle. We haven't talked to him about joining the podcast yet, but he'll probably be down. And look out for that. And me and my brother are also working on a script. It's called Fixed. Hopefully we'll be having a couple of projects on the, instead of putting them on the back burner, maybe put them in the oven and have a souffle and have everybody over to
taste it.
Of course, everybody brings their own forks and have a little souffle taste off.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle, you procure a Sumatran rat monkey, let it bite you, you pass on to the afterlife, and your vessel will be left behind, obviously. But whenever you get up to heaven, you ask God, what is the meaning of everything? And he'll laugh at you and turn his back. And on his back, there will be a tattoo that is my Twitter handle, and that is @ZachOffYourMom. So my Twitter handle is God's Back Tattoo.
God.
Exactly.
So I'm on Twitter @BaileyMcLeod. I have a blog. Nobody puts BaileyInTheCorner.wordpress.com. I actually have. Things have been crazy lately, so I'm actually doing a blog marathon tonight. So there are going to be some posted, one tonight, one tomorrow, one Saturday, and one Sunday.
I actually have a question for you, Bailey.
Oh no!
Do you work for Hello Giggles?
I am a contributor for Hello Giggles. I'm on the 3rd page of contributors. My most recent articles are about Gilmore Girls, why I'm okay with never have having. I'm balls deep into a big glass of wine.
She actually dips balls in it.
Yeah, I dipped my
weird.
balls in it.
Yes.
So I wrote an article about why I'm 23 and I'm still not ready for a serious relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also wrote an article about something else. And so I'm writing a couple of pieces tonight as well.
Yeah.
So I'll have some fresh stuff up on all fronts.
Yes.
And yeah, so I'm still thinking about, I'm torn between a vlog and a podcast next. So I have a side project coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not sure what yet. There should be an OC podcast coming up. And I think that's kind of my debate right now is whether to just keep it as a podcast or to keep it as a video podcast. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
But I really want to do something with the OC since I love it so
and
much.
of course, I'll come on if you'll have me for an
Absolutely.
episode. Yeah.
Also, so speaking of that, I think we should go ahead and talk about December.
Yeah, so, yeah. Due to a lot of there's some new job stuff for me and Bailey. We both work for the same company, and there's some uncertainty. Well, not necessarily uncertainty, but new locations. So we're gonna have to be dealing with that a lot. I'm gonna have to spend a lot of time with some people that are very dear to me that I won't be able to see again for a very long time. And I mentioned earlier how we're going to try to move some projects that are on the back burner into the oven and make a souffle. So, Demon Heads, we will be taking a momentary hiatus come
Yes.
December. Maybe.
Maybe.
Bailey's discussed possibly continuing without me for a little bit, but don't worry,
Just
I will
in
be
December,
back.
yeah. It's just to give Zach a little break. So
Yeah.
kind of the setup would be we would still release an episode every week.
Yes.
But it would just be me with the guest host for
Yes.
December, and then in January, Zach would
And that
come
does
back
not
on.
exclude me from being a guest.
No.
Yes.
So-
it just a lot of the work that is put into casting out demons, and Bailey can definitely
Absolutely.
It is the editing process, and it is very daunting. There has been some family emergencies for people that are close to me, and
Yeah,
you know,
it's been a rough October.
for both of us, and and I mean, as much as this means to both of us, and I'm sure Bailey will agree with when I say this, that it is one of the most important things in my life, and I take it very seriously.
Absolutely.
But above everything else, family and loved ones come first, and Bailey understands that, and I understand that, and so we've had to take a little time out from releasing it every week. But by the time I'm saying this, I might have every episode up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's contingent on a lot of stuff. We're not ignoring this. We do take the deadlines we give ourselves very seriously.
Yep.
But at the same time, like we've had to cancel 1 week before because family ultimately comes first. And I think that, I don't like to get too serious on that on this podcast, but I do appreciate Bailey understanding that, and I do appreciate you guys if you guys do understand that.
Yeah, no, we
for
just
understanding.
don't want you guys to freak out and think Zach's going anywhere because
Yeah.
Zach's not going anywhere.
No,
It's just
I'm in this for the long haul.
yeah, it's just to take a little time off so that Zach can do some stuff, I can work on some stuff,
Yeah.
and just so we
Yeah.
just didn't want you to get freaked out if you didn't see.
We're not, for all intents and purposes, we're not getting a divorce.
Yeah, it's just a trial separation.
Yeah, Daddy needs to see some other. Daddy needs
But
to
then
see
he's
some
gonna
other.
come back, yeah.
I'm coming back.
It's like Zach's hall pass. Zach gets a month hall pass,
Yeah,
and then he's coming back.
Wow.
Yeah, a whole month's
Of course
hall
I'll
pass.
come back, but wow. Wow.
If Callie asks anything about that, I never
Yeah.
said that.
Well, yeah.
If it,
Technically, this is my hall pass from Callie, letting me do this podcast. So.
when it all works out.
Yes.
Yeah, Callie, don't think that I just.
Yeah, no.
If anything happens and Zach tries to blame me, just know.
Trust me, Callie's laughing along with us, and yeah. And if she's gonna get mad at anybody, it's me. So
Yeah. I would just like to
don't
say,
worry about that.
for all liability purposes.
Yes. So thanks, Demon Heads.
guys.
Thanks so much. R.I.P. Wes Craven. I know we talked about
Yeah,
it.
but it's so
I've
sad.
just been thinking about you a lot. Thanks to Vulcan Video. You guys are not sponsors by any shape or form.
But they're super awesome.
You're not even aware of this podcast, but you guys are helping us out a lot. And
especially next week. For next week's movie, it will be rented from Vulcan. So
yeah. And I also just want to point out, and I know was kind of carrying on a little long here, but the Vulcan Video people, like, I go in there and I tell them a movie that I like, and they're able to give me a recommendation. Like, I had to watch 50 Shades of Grey because, let's just say a friend of mine wanted to watch it, and unironically wanted to watch it really bad to see what the fuss
it was
all
actually
about.
Zach, because Zach's colorblind, so that's how you know he chose it.
I did not. But there were a lot of, let's just say that there were a lot of jokes made throughout the movie, and that the low-hanging fruit was the fact that I am colorblind. I didn't suddenly get cured.
50 Shades of Grey cured me from my colorblindness.
But there was a line in 50 Shades of Grey where he's like, I'm 50 shades of fucked up. I was like, what?
Did you not? Yeah, that's in the book.
So I went to Vulcan Video, and the guy that was in the commercials with Matthew McConaughey and Jimmy Kimmel, I asked him, I was like, hey, and the entire staff was like around
it's
laughing.
the guy with the glasses, right?
He actually wasn't wearing glasses, so I don't know.
Okay.
He had like the big beard, and then like in the video he shaved, and they were making fun of him for looking weird. Anyway, so I went in there and I was like, I'm having to watch 50 Shades of Grey. I don't really want to, and I'm like not looking forward to tonight. And he's like, yeah, it's really, really bad. I was like, do you have any movies recommend? He's like, what kind of movies? I was like, I don't know, like a palate cleanser or something to get the taste of this movie out of my mouth. And he's like, I got Just the Thing, and he recommended this movie, Skin Deep. I haven't watched it yet, but it's a John Ritter movie.
Ooh.
So I love John Ritter, grew up watching him in Three's Company and also 8 Simple Rules for Dating. Love that show, Kaylee Cuoco's first show. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I think that that's really cool that they take the time out to recognize.
Oh yeah, they're super awesome, and I love the subcategories of Vulcan.
Yeah.
Which always trip me up, and so I never want to go back and ask again. So they probably just watch me meander around the store after I asked the first time. But they're great guys.
It's become my favorite place in Austin.
I love it, yeah. And I mean, like, I don't have a car, and so it's super awesome because the bus takes you legitimately to the street that it's on.
Yeah.
They're always super nice, like Zach said. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays are actually rent one, get one free.
Yeah. Which
So-
I did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I also got my free video today.
Yeah, once you rent 10 movies, your 11th rental is always free. So there you go. There's
Yeah.
a shout out to Vulcan Video.
Yeah, a little plug.
They aren't sponsoring us at all,
no.
but they're just
a business
awesome.
I really care about and like.
So yeah, I think that you should definitely go check them out.
All right,
So,
thanks,
yeah.
Demon Heads.
And remember, ghosts have feelings too.
The sequel. Casting Out Demons is a podcast that usually features words that come from our mouth. It is created by Bailey McLeod Perkins, starring Bailey McLeod Perkins and Zach T. Busby. Original music brought to you by Jackson King. Original cover art provided by Lauren Cecilia Mims. The original score is brought to you today by Zach T. Busby. What are chickens? What are crows? Are chickens and crows the same thing? No, of course not. They're different birds.